Hello, you're watching AnewZ Morning from Baku. I'm Bakhtiyar Hasanov, and here are the top stories. UN General Assembly overwhelmingly demands immediate Gaza ceasefire, expresses support for the work of the UN's Agency for Palestinian Refugees. France flies 2 warplanes from Chad to signal start of military withdrawal. Somalia and Ethiopia reach historical agreement after Turkish-mediated talks in Ankara. The United Nations General Assembly passed a resolution demanding an immediate and permanent ceasefire between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. It also calls for the release of all hostages.
158 countries out of 193 backed UN resolution calling for peace in Gaza. The resolution's passing came after months of mounting pressure from countries around the world, highlighting the dire humanitarian crisis unfolding in the region after October 7, 2023.
The vote is as follows.
Gaza today is the bleeding heart of Palestine and open, painful wound for the human family. Stop the bleeding and restore life in Gaza so it can be once again the beating heart of Palestine. Stop the bleeding so we can restore credibility to our international system, so we can ensure it for future generations, so our people can live, so our region can thrive, so that international peace and security can be preserved.
Gaza doesn't exist anymore. It is destroyed. Palestinians are facing hunger, despair, and death.
However, the decision was met with sharp criticism from nations like the US and Israel, which argued that the resolution oversimplifies the complex situation and fails to address key issues.
The messages we send to the world through these resolutions matter, and both of these resolutions have significant problems. One rewards Hamas and downplays the need to release the hostages, and the other denigrates Israel without providing a path forward to increasing humanitarian assistance to Palestinian civilians.
Israel's UN ambassador Danny Danon also mentioned that the resolution doesn't protect humanitarian values.
By voting for these resolutions, you are not voting to protect humanitarian values, but to protect an organization that has become a haven for terror. You vote for the resolutions knowing the truth, knowing that UNRWA is not a neutral actor, but an entity hopelessly infiltrated by Hamas.
The UN rejects accusations that the UN Relief and Works Agency of being infiltrated by Hamas and maintains that UNRWA provides essential services to millions of Palestinians.
The war in Gaza has now forced a food crisis. Basic supplies like flour are running low. Displaced Palestinians struggle to secure food as prices soar and food distribution networks collapse.
In Gaza, with food resources becoming increasingly scarce and many unable to prepare meals at home, violent incidents have broken out. On November 29, a tragic stampede occurred in Deir al-Balah in central Gaza when a large crowd rushed to buy crackers. The chaos resulted in the deaths of 2 women and a child, highlighting the desperate situation faced by many. In Khan Yunis, southern Gaza, people, including 70-year-old displaced Palestinian Nabil Bassioni, have waited for hours at food shops to buy some crackers.
I've been standing here for more than 3 hours, but I still haven't bought any crackers. I can only go back to my children with nothing.
The shortage has forced many food stalls in southern Gaza to close, and prices have surged dramatically, with crackers now costing nearly 32 times more than before the recent conflict.
4 people were wounded in a shooting attack on a civilian bus near Beit Jala in the West Bank late Wednesday night. Among the injured is a 10-year-old Israeli boy who remains in critical condition. The victims, including 2 adults who are in stable condition, were treated at Hadassah Medical Center. The Israeli military has labeled the incident a terrorist attack and stated that the area around Bethlehem was immediately sealed off as they pursued the assailant. As Israeli forces move into the demilitarized zone with Syria, let's get more details from Trent Murray, who is at the Israeli-Syrian border.
We are standing at the border between Israel and Syria. As you can probably see behind me, this is now an active military zone. The Israelis continuing to pour those Merkaba tanks, artillery troops into that vast area behind me, which since 1974 was a demilitarized zone separating Israel and Syria. But the fall of the Assad regime has seen the Israelis spring into action as the Syrian troops on the other side abandoned their posts on Saturday when the Assad regime fell. Well, the Israelis moved in quick, seizing that demilitarized zone. Now, the justification, they say, is that they are concerned about their security given the events happening in Syria. They have also launched operations not just on the ground, but of course in the sky. You hear the constant buzz of drones here, even fighter jets at times. Over 350 airstrikes reported across Syria. The Israelis say they are targeting the remnants of Assad's military, air force bases, naval ports, army bases. They say they're worried the weapons left behind by those troops could fall into the hands of extremists. But of course, this military maneuver has also attracted considerable criticism across the Middle East. Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Egypt and others saying that Israel is using what has happened in Syria, where there is a power vacuum, as a catalyst, an opportunity to seize this territory permanently for themselves. Trent Murray for AnewZ at the Israel-Syria border.
Countless families around the world are displaced by the Syrian civil war, with many now making life-changing decisions to return home and rebuild their lives.
13 years after fleeing the civil war, Ala Jabir tearfully prepares to return home to Syria from Turkey. His return is a bittersweet one, as he will be taking his only surviving daughter, 10-year-old Syrian, with him. In early 2023, he lost his wife and 3 other children in the devastating earthquakes that struck southern Turkey as well as parts of Syria.
We lived here and she was born here, and we are indebted to the Turkish people, the government and people for hosting us. And praise be to God the Almighty and to you. That is, of course, after God's grace and Turkey, relief has come. And by God's will today, as I cry for my children, I also cry for Turkey. Because it's here they were born, grew up, were educated, and here they died.
Jabir first arrived in Turkey's Hatay province in 2011 when tensions flared between former President Bashar al-Assad and rebels in Damascus. Now, following Assad's exile to Russia, Turkey reopened the Yayladağ border crossing, encouraging some of the 3 million Syrian refugees it hosts to return voluntarily. Hopeful for a better future, Jabir expressed gratitude to Turkey for its support during his years of refuge, but was eager to reunite with his mother in Latakia. Jabir said that he believes the new administration will bring an end to oppression.
I hope by God's will that the situation will be better than before and family follows. When I came here, I was met with the best reception. I care for this country very much. The door was open for us, from food to medicine to dreams to reception to security and safety. I'm sad to leave.
Turkey, which controls parts of northern Syria, emphasized its commitment to voluntary, safe, dignified and regular returns as stability improves in Syria. The reopened border crossing marks a significant step in facilitating those returns after years of closure and conflict.
U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has invited Chinese President Xi Jinping to attend his inauguration on January 20th. The invitation was extended in early November, but it remains unclear if Xi has accepted. The Chinese embassy in Washington declined to comment. Despite the invitation, tensions between the two countries remain, with Trump naming China hawks to key positions and threatening tariffs on Chinese goods over fentanyl trafficking. Meanwhile, China's state media has warned that a tariff war could damage both economies. After 5 days of searching, police finally detained the suspect who allegedly murdered United Health CEO in Manhattan, New York. Luigi Mangione now faces extradition to New York in the trial that could take tens of days.
Luigi Mangione is challenging the attempt to extradite him to New York, meaning a legal process is beginning which could take weeks. He tussled with police officers briefly outside court before facing those extradition charges. He shouted to the crowds of media waiting for him, saying it's completely out of touch and an insult to the intelligence of the American people and the lived experience. The 26-year-old has been charged with the murder of Brian Thompson, a healthcare executive in Manhattan a week ago. The suspect evaded police for 5 days until Mangione was spotted in a McDonald's by an employee in Pennsylvania on Monday. His lawyer said outside court on Tuesday, if you're an American, you believe in the American criminal justice system. You've got to presume him to be innocent, and none of us would want anything other than that if we were in his shoes. So I'm glad he has some support. Well, while the murder of a healthcare CEO has been widely condemned, many people, especially online, have also expressed sympathy, even support for Mangione, including his apparent condemnation of the healthcare industry. He had a manifesto to that effect on him when he was arrested, and the words "deny, defend, depose" were written on the bullet casings found at the scene of the crime. Well, those are words associated with criticism of insurance companies who don't pay for potentially life-saving healthcare in the US, putting profit above care. Well, merchandise with related slogans have also popped up on sites like Amazon, Etsy and TikTok. Well, while conversations swirl in the outside world, Mangione remains inside in detention, denied bail. He was found with money and fake IDs on him, making him a flight risk. Caroline Malone for AnewZ, Washington.
Still in the United States, a fast-moving wildfire near Los Angeles, California, threatens homes and forces some residents in Malibu to evacuate. The wildfire has also knocked out power and closed roads in the beach community.
A wildfire driven by strong winds ignited northwest of Los Angeles, prompting evacuations in parts of Malibu as it threatened homes, disrupted power, and closed roads in the coastal area. Known as the Franklin Fire, the blaze expanded rapidly overnight in steep mountainous terrain. It spread south across the Pacific Coast Highway, endangering the scenic city of about 10,000 residents. The fire remains uncontained and has destroyed a few homes, but caused no injuries or fatalities, according to Los Angeles County Fire Chief. Los Angeles County Sheriff reported that evacuation orders were issued for 2,043 structures, with warnings for an additional 646 properties. Governor Gavin Newsom announced that California secured federal assistance to combat the wildfire. The National Weather Service issued a red flag warning due to increased fire risk, with winds gusting up to 104 kilometers per hour, creating hazardous conditions.
Chad ended its defense cooperation agreement with France, a move that has led to the withdrawal of French military forces from the country. This marks a significant shift in the region's security dynamics.
France has started withdrawing its military forces from Chad with the departure of 2 warplanes stationed in N'Djamena, the capital, the French army announced. The specifics of the withdrawal, including whether any French troops will remain in Chad, are still under negotiation. However, on Tuesday, the first Mirage fighter jets returned to their base in eastern France. This move comes after France had already withdrawn troops from Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger due to military coups and growing anti-French sentiment in those countries. Currently, around 1,000 French troops remain in Chad. Army spokesman Chinese Isaka Ahik confirmed the departure of the French warplanes and stated that updates on the withdrawal would be shared with the public until the complete departure of French forces. However, a French envoy recently presented President Emmanuel Macron with a report suggesting ways to scale back France's military presence in Chad, Gabon and Ivory Coast.
In a significant diplomatic breakthrough, Turkey has successfully mediated an agreement between Somalia and Ethiopia, ending a year-long dispute over a controversial maritime treaty with Somaliland. The breakthrough came after intense negotiations hosted in Ankara by Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Following a month of deadlock, Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud finally reached common ground during a third round of talks. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, announcing the agreement, called it a historic milestone. The agreement focuses on dialogue and collaboration, ensuring Ethiopia's access to the sea through Somalia's sovereign territory. Both sides pledged to work towards shared prosperity, with technical discussions slated to begin by February and conclude within 4 months. Any unresolved matters will be addressed through dialogue, with Turkey offering continued support if needed. FIFA confirms Saudi Arabia as the 2034 World Cup host after an unopposed bid. Ahead of that, Spain, Portugal and Morocco will co-host the 2030 tournament, with 3 matches taking place in Argentina, Paraguay and Uruguay to mark 100 years of the competition. In October, FIFA announced no competing bids for the 2030 and 2034 World Cups, essentially making Wednesday's decision just a formality. It was finalized by acclamation rather than a formal vote. Morocco, Spain and Portugal's combined proposal will see the 2030 World Cup take place across 3 continents and 6 countries to mark the tournament's centenary, with Uruguay, Argentina and Paraguay hosting celebratory games. Last month, Saudi Arabia unveiled plans for the King Salman Stadium, a 92,000 capacity facility in Riyadh, said to be the showpiece of the 2034 World Cup. As the world lights up for the holiday season with Christmas trees and decorations, Mexico's flower production blooms with the traditional poinsettia, seen by many as a Christmas Eve flower.
Flower growers in Mexico City's Xochimilco canals, who use the pre-Hispanic method of growing plants on floating gardens, have transformed their greenhouses into a sea of red poinsettias. People from across the city travel every year to the Xochimilco flower markets to buy Noche Buena, which translates into Christmas Eve, the local term for poinsettias.
I come here for Nochebuenas every Christmas. That's a tradition we learn from my mother, and it might be something my daughters might learn from me and my grandchildren from them.
The flower, which originated in Mexico, adorns homes, churches, squares and avenues around its native country. Poinsettias have a long association with Christmas. As the legend goes, a girl called Pepita had no gift to present to the baby Jesus at a church service on Christmas Eve. Her cousin told her the smallest gift given by someone who loves him would make Jesus happy, so she picked a handful of weeds from the roadside and made them into a modest bouquet. Legend says that when she knelt and placed the bouquet before the nativity scene, the weeds burst into bright red blooms, and the congregation believed they had witnessed a Christmas poinsettia miracle. From that moment on, the flowers were known as the Flores de Nochebuena.
Well, that's all we have for this hour. You can also get latest news and headlines around the clock on our website, that is AnewZ.tv. Thank you for watching, and also we wish you a good day ahead.